So back again, episode 24 now of Football Heaven 24/7. Going to focus on the 1996-97 football season. Um, okay, let's go straight into it. So, anyway, Man United secured their fourth Premier League title in the last five seasons, um, finishing 7 points ahead of second place Newcastle, who were runners up for the second consecutive season. The Magpies, who had let a 12-point lead slip to allow United to win the title in 1996, 97, 90, yeah, 95, 96, showed their intent by breaking the world transfer record to sign England striker Alan Shearer from Blackburn for 15 million. After two defeats from the first three games, Newcastle won the next six before welcoming Manchester United to St James's Park in October. The home side were in scintillating form, hammering the champions 5-0 and subsequent 6-3 defeat to Southampton and a 2-1 reverse against Chelsea set alarm bells ringing around Old Trafford. But United then went on a 16-game unbeaten run, starting with a 1-0 win over Arsenal, who had appointed Nagoya Grampus 8 manager Arsene Wenger the previous month. Key to the Red Devils' resurgence was Eric Cantona, who scored a sublime chip in the 5-0 thrashing of Sunderland at Old Trafford. No one knew then that it would be the last season they would see the French striker, as he announced his retirement at the end of the season at the age of just 30. Newcastle's title hopes were dealt a blow when a 7-game winless run saw them slip to sixth, and despite a 7-1 win at home to Tottenham in the following match, manager Kevin Keegan shocked the club by resigning. He was replaced by former Blackburn manager Kenny Dalglish, who whose arrival saw the Magpies fight their way back into the title race. However, another 4-3 defeat at Anfield put an end to any realistic title ambitions. It was confirmed with 2 games to spare, as Newcastle drew away at West Ham, meaning United were champions again. With the title race decided, attention turned to the battle against relegation. Nottingham Forest were already down, but Southampton, who had been 5 points adrift of safety, embarked on a 7-game unbeaten run to all but ensure their survival. That left Middlesbrough and Coventry looking to overtake 17th place Sunderland to secure their safety on the last day of the season. Borough, who had been deducted 3 points for failing to fulfil a fixture against Blackburn due to illness and injury, could only manage a 1-1 draw at Leeds and were relegated. They were joined by Sunderland after Coventry won 2-1 at Tottenham, and the Black Cats, Sunderland, suffered a 1-0 defeat at Wimbledon. So, in the season, Manchester United finished at the top. They had 75 points. In second with 68 points, which you wouldn't barely ever see today, a team finishing second with 68 points. Bearing in mind the league table is down to 20 teams now, like it is with the current Premier League. Like I say, Newcastle finished second with 68 in the 96-97 season. Arsenal were third. Liverpool were fourth. Aston Villa in fifth. Chelsea in sixth. Sheffield Wednesday seventh. Wimbledon in eighth. Leicester City in ninth. Tottenham in 10th. Leeds in 11th. Derby in 12th after they'd just come up the previous season. Blackburn 13th. West Ham 14th. Everton 15th. Southampton 16th. Coventry City 17th. Sunderland in the relegation zone. The teams to get relegated, Sunderland, Middlesbrough and Forest, finished 18th, 19th and 20th respectively. And the top scorer for the season was Alan Shearer with 25 goals. Ian Wright was in second with 23. Both of them are now pundits on the current Match of the Day programme. Robbie Fowler finished in equal third place with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who had his best season for Manchester United, scoring 18 goals, and Robbie Fowler had 18 goals as well. And in fifth was Dwight York with 17, Les Ferdinand and Fabrizio Ravanelli were just behind Dwight York with 16 goals apiece. The player of the year was Alan Shearer, as he finished top goal scorer for the third season running. And the PFA Young Player of the Year was David Beckham. Now, in my previous episode that I just did about the 95-96 season, I sillily that's not even a word, but I stupidly forgot to talk about the class of '92, which, as people in their late 30s and beyond will know, was the emergence of David Beckham, the two Neville brothers, Phil Neville and Gary Neville, and Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes. All those players came through in the 95-96 season, just as Mark Hughes, Kanchelskis, and Paul Ince had left the club. All their places were filled by the class of 92. Now, the first game of that 95-96 season, um, Alan Hansen, who was a successful defender with Liverpool in the 80s, he said, "You'll never win anything with kids." And he ate his words because, as I said in the previous episode, in the 95-96 season, Manchester United won the title by 4 points. But anyway, that's enough of that. I've digressed from the 96-97 season to the 95-96, but I thought I would mention that because I didn't mention it in the previous episode. Now, David Beckham, as I say, he came through with the Neville brothers, but Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes. Um, and he was voted as the Young Player of the Year for the 96-97 season. The goal of the season, as voted by all the Match of the Day viewers, was actually not in the league. It was in an FA Cup game between Queen's Park Rangers and Barnsley. Now, QPR had already been relegated last season, the 95-96 season, and they were now playing in the Championship, but they managed to have Trevor Sinclair stay with them for another season. He was given the goal of the season. It was an overhead bicycle kick from outside the penalty box, and it looped over the Barnsley goalkeeper's head and into the back of the net. Now, that's what happened for that season. There was 162 home wins, there was 99 away wins, and there was 119 draws. Games played, obviously 380 games in the season. From out of the 380 games, there was 970 goals, and the average goals per game that season were 2.55. The biggest transfer of the season was Alan Shearer, who moved from Blackburn Rovers back to his beloved Newcastle United, which was where he was born and where he born and bred and come from. And he was the record transfer in the world at that time, 15 million from Blackburn to Newcastle. As I said earlier, Newcastle finished second that season after losing Keegan with towards the end of the season and Dalglish taking over. Bit of a shock there. Keegan had a good run, but I suppose Keegan, as he said in the interviews at that time, he'd gone as far as he thought he could go with Newcastle. He'd had a couple of second place finishes, or third place and second place. They finished second, obviously, that season, but that elusive Premier League title just couldn't be reached purely because Alex Ferguson was producing wonders at Manchester United, and as we all know, would go on to become the greatest British manager that's ever been here. So, a few other things to mention about the season. The biggest wins came from Everton beating Southampton 7-1 at home, Newcastle beating Tottenham 7-1 at home. The longest winning run was by Newcastle United, 7 games, 7 wins on the trot. Longest unbeaten run for the whole season was Manchester United, which figures with them winning the title in the end. Longest winless run came from bottom of the table Forest that season. They couldn't win in 16 games. Longest losing run was 6 games by Everton, who only just stayed up. The highest attendance was Manchester United versus Wimbledon, 55,314. And the lowest attendance was ironically Wimbledon at the other end of the scale, with 7,979 versus when it was Wimbledon versus Leeds United. So that's the whole stats for the 96-97 season. That all that remains is to do the team of the season. The team of the season, David Seaman was in goal he was in that as a team in the team of the season. Gary Neville, Tony Adams, Mark Wright, Stig Igbeorneby, they all finished as the defenders in the team of the season. David Beckham, Roy Keane, David Batty, and Steve McManaman all finished in midfield in the team of the season. And the two main strikers of the year, no doubts on it, Alan Shearer finished there, and so did Ian Wright, as they finished first and second respectively in the goal scoring chart. So great season, 96-97. Now, I'm breezing through these. I did promise to do a review of past Premier League seasons. I got a fantastic book that tells me basic information on all the stuff. It's a great book called The Ultimate Guide to the Premier League, by a guy called James Bandy, who's done a fantastic job. He's done it all the way up to 2017-18 from the start of the original campaign on the 92-93 season. Now, I'm going to jump from the 96-97 season into the 97-98 season. So now we know that Manchester United had won 5 out of the first 6 Premier League seasons. Unfortunately, for a lot of people having to look on that weren't Man United fans. But we're going into the 97-98 season, and Arsenal had a new manager, Arsene Wenger, barely heard of. He'd managed in France. He'd managed a Japanese team called Nagoya Grampus 8. And he went into the 97-98 season. There wasn't really much expectation on Arsenal. Arsenal having finished in the 96-97 season in third position. They were making progress. They jumped up a few places the last couple of seasons after finishing disappointingly in 94-95 12th. They'd built on that, finishing 5th and now 3rd respectively. But no one anticipated what was yet to follow from a virtually unknown manager. Anyway, I'll do my little review of the season and then go through all the stats and the various things. Now, in the first full season at Arsenal as Arsenal manager, Arsene Wenger led Arsenal to their first Premier League title and their first top flight title since 1991. The Gunners also lifted the FA Cup to cap an incredible season for the North London side. Now, they finished with a double that season, which was fantastic. And so that was great for Arsenal. They finally won the title for the first time, basically, in 7 years. So, anyway, let's read how it went. The title had seemed unlikely at Christmas for Arsenal, but an incredible run of 45 points from a possible 51 in the second half of the season saw the Gunners beat rivals Manchester United by a single point. Newcastle United, who had finished second in the previous 2 campaigns, struggled to replicate that form under Kenny Dalglish, and the Magpies eventually finished 13th. But it was Dalglish's old side, Blackburn, who were the early pace setters, with Roy Hodgson leading his new club to 4 wins from the first 5 games. They couldn't maintain the form all the way through until Christmas, but were still looking strong in second place by the time the festive period arrived. There was a familiar look about the table at Christmas, as it was Manchester United who was sat at the top, helped by a run of 6 consecutive wins following a 3-2 defeat to Arsenal. The Gunners themselves had slipped to 6th, 13 points behind the Red Devils, but their title charge was soon to begin. By as late as the beginning of March, United were still 12 points ahead of Arsenal and had played 3 more games than their London rivals. When the 2 clubs met at Old Trafford on March the 14th, Arsenal came away with a 1-0 win, and it turned the title race on its head. The Gunners won 10 games on the trot to win the Premier League, which was sealed with a 4-0 win at home to Everton. Arsenal even lost the last 2 games of the season against Liverpool and Aston Villa as they looked to rest players ahead of the FA Cup final, which they ended up playing against Chelsea, if I remember rightly, and they won 2-0 in that. So that was the double for Arsenal. London rivals Tottenham were in the relegation zone at the turn of the year, but the return of striker Jurgen Klinsmann, who had impressed so much in his first spell at the club. Now, Jurgen Klinsmann had played for Spurs in the 94-95 season, but in the 95-96 and the 96-97, he was playing for Bayern Munich. He'd won a UEFA Cup with Bayern Munich, actually. He was part of the team that beat Nottingham Forest on the way to that UEFA Cup in the 95-96 season. Now, with other great players such as Jean-Pierre Papin and many other great players, Mehmet Scholl, all these great players of the 90s that a lot of lads, like I say, in their late 30s and beyond would remember some of those players. But anyway, I'll finish with the rest of it all. So Klinsmann came along and basically saved Spurs. The German star hit 9 goals in 15 matches to ensure the club finished in 14th place. The battle at the bottom of the table was left between Everton and the 3 promoted clubs, Bolton, Crystal Palace and Barnsley. Palace and Barnsley had already been relegated by the final day of the season, and Everton stayed up in dramatic fashion, meaning all 3 promoted teams suffered an instant return to the Premiership. Now, sometimes you see that, but not very often these days. Now you would see maybe perhaps 1 team out of the 3 stay up, or even some seasons there's been 2 teams stay up. in the more recent years in the Premier League. But at the end of the season, Arsenal finished top with 78 points. Manchester United were in second. Liverpool finished third. Chelsea finished fourth. Leeds United finished fifth. Blackburn Rovers were in sixth. Villa in seventh. West Ham eighth. In ninth was Derby. 10th was Leicester. 11th was Coventry City. 12th was Southampton. 13th was Newcastle United. 14th was Tottenham. 15th was Wimbledon. 16th was Sheffield Wednesday. 17th was Everton. And as it said earlier in the review, Bolton, Barnsley, and Crystal Palace were all relegated after having been promoted the previous season. The top scorer for that season was shared between three players at the time. Dion Dublin, who played for Coventry City, Michael Owen, who was playing for Liverpool at the time, and Chris Sutton, who was playing at Blackburn Rovers. They all finished with 18 goals each. Likewise, joint second place was three strikers. Dennis Bergkamp for Arsenal with 16 in his first season. Then there was, well, it wasn't his first season, sorry, but I think it was his second season there. Kevin Gallagher for Blackburn Rovers, who done well with Chris Sutton to help Blackburn into sixth, and Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank with 16 goals at Leeds United at the time. In the league, the biggest transfer, having been in the previous season, the 96-97 season, sorry, it was Alan Shearer with 15 million. This time it was a little bit less. Graham Lasso going from Blackburn to Chelsea for 5 million. The biggest win of the season was Manchester United beating newly promoted Barnsley 7-0, who obviously ended up getting relegated. The longest winning run was held by the eventual champions, Arsenal, who won 10 games on the bounce. The longest unbeaten run was again by Arsenal, 18 games unbeaten. The longest losing run was 8 games by relegated Crystal Palace, who finished bottom of the league. The highest attendance was Manchester United again. To be honest, I'm saying the highest attendance at this point in time. Manchester United, well, like they have now, really. They had the biggest domestic ground in the Premier League, and they had an attendance of 55,306, was the top one at home to Wimbledon. And yet again, as it was in the previous season, Wimbledon had the lowest attendance against at home to Barnsley. That was 7,668. The average attendance for the season was 29,212. In the league, looking at other stats, there was 184 home wins that season in the 97-98 season, 101 away wins and 95 draws. There was out of 380 games played, there was 1,018 goals scored, which was more than the previous season, and the average goals per game for the season was 2.68. So very interesting season. Going down for other awards, looking at the PFA Player of the Season as voted by the players, obviously, Dennis Bergkamp finished as the top man for that award. The Young Player of the Year coming through, who had a great season, Michael Owen, and he would go on to score a wonder goal at the 98 World Cup for England and against Argentina, that would turn him into a world-class player at that point. Much like David Beckham a few seasons earlier with his great halfway line goal that he scored against Wimbledon in, I believe it was the 96-97 season. So both those players have gone on to become world-class players, obviously, in their careers. The goal of the season was Dennis Bergkamp's beautiful goal away at Leicester City when Arsenal won 4-2. It was a cross from the right-hand side. He took it down perfectly with one foot, and then with the outside of his other foot, he just flicked it past the goalkeeper. A beautiful goal. Keeper had no chance. So yeah, great season for Arsenal in the 97-98 season. Yeah, very, very great seasons, to be fair, to watch. So that's my review of the 96-97 season and the 97-98 season. Obviously, I'm going to do more episodes. I'm basically just going to breeze through them all. I don't know how many of you will get through these bit by bit, but I thought I'd put some of them up there. I'm doing it for personal reference myself, so I can look back when I'm older, something to look back on. And I hope that you guys will enjoy it. Oh, I didn't mention the team of the season for the 97-98 season. The team of the season was Nigel Martin in goal, as Leeds made a massive improvement, finishing fifth in the season. He was the Leeds United goalkeeper at the time. Also, Manchester United had another decent season, but finished second by a point to Arsenal this season. Gary Neville and Gary Pallister were in the defence in the team of the season. Colin Hendry for Blackburn, and Graham Lasso for Chelsea were also in defence as well. In the midfield, it was three Manchester United players: David Beckham, Nicky Butt, and Ryan Giggs. David Batty from Newcastle was in there as well. And up front, it was two um, great scorers that season. Michael Owen, who'd finished joint top scorer with Dion Dublin on 18 each, and just behind on 16, Dennis Bergkamp was in the team of the season. So great season for Dennis Bergkamp. Dennis Bergkamp, in today's, amongst Arsenal fans today, is still voted as probably one of the greatest players alongside Thierry Henry in Arsenal's rich history. But yeah, it was a great season that season. And as we said earlier, 97-98 season, it was dominated by Arsenal winning the double. So they gained a bit power back. Manchester United had a run at this stage of winning 5 out of the last 6 leading into that season, and it was good to see a different team win it for a change. Like I say, in the next episode that I will be doing, it will be a review of the 98-99 season, which was a very, very special season in English football history, and then the 1999-2000 season, and that will take us to the start of this century that we're in now. And I will continue to do episodes and reviews so people can have a look through it for themselves. Bit of a reminder of memories from the past. For all you guys out there that are obsessed with your football like me, it's that time of the season where there's not much going on. We've got the UEFA Nations League, but it's still a pretty boring wait. We're waiting for the fixtures to come out on the 16th of June. Today is the 7th of June, 2022. We're waiting for those fixtures to come out in the morning. That will be online in the papers, obviously, the following day on the 17th. Can't come soon enough. I'm interested to see who Forest will get on that day, see who they'll end up playing. I'm praying that they don't play the big teams like Manchester City and Liverpool until a little bit further into the campaign, so it gives them the chance to hopefully get a bit further up the table. There's been rumours from Marinakis, the Nottingham Forest chairman, that they're going to get between 75 and 100 million to spend on players. I hope that, like a lot of stories in the press, that it's not hearsay, because if he can get 75 to 100 million, that's more than the Manchester United, Manchester City, and Liverpool have spent on players in the previous 3 seasons on average. So it would be nice for Forest not to just make the numbers up, for them to finish in the top half perhaps, or mid-table, if they can get the right recruits. Steve Cooper is a great manager. There's many other great managers who will get to see, or managers that will get to see if they can improve on the 2022-23 season. The new Leeds United manager, Mersh, has got to see whether he's going to be a good manager or not. And also there's other promoted teams, Fulham and Bournemouth, to see whether Parker can beat his record and avoid relegation, with Bournemouth having been relegated twice already as Fulham manager. And obviously Marco Silva has brought Fulham up into the Premier League. He's had some okay times, not so great at Everton. He managed to keep Hull City up one season as well in the past in the Premier League. So it'll be interesting to see how those managers get on in the current Premier League. As I say, for me, over the next couple of months till the start of the 22-23 season, I will be doing more reviews, all the way up to the current season that we're in now, 22-23. And I'll also be focusing on individual teams and their histories through the seasons gone by. So yeah, just stuff to look forward to. I thank you for your continued support. As you can see, I'm putting a lot more material out. I was a bit inactive from doing this for about several days, but now I'm getting more up to date with everything. So, as I said in the previous 2 episodes that I've done today, have a great week and continue to like and subscribe. Please let all your friends and family know. We're going to get bigger and better. It's building up bit by bit. But I thank you for your interest, and have a great time. All the best. This has been Football Heaven 24/7. I'm your host. This, I believe, is episode 24, and there'll be more to come. All the best, boy.